Thanks for taking the time to listen to our latest content here on the Blood Red channel. Guy here with just a quick message. Do you want the very latest Liverpool FC news directly into your inbox? Well, then sign up to our daily LFC newsletter, which will bring you the breaking news and big events from around Anfield. To subscribe, just go to bit.ly/LFC newsletter. That's bit.ly/LFC newsletter, or click the link in the description of this podcast and pop in your email address. It really is that simple. That link once more, bit.ly/LFC newsletter. Well, thanks for your time, and on with the podcast.
This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
So the 17th of June, it's a date for the diary. Premier League football due to return in less than 3 weeks. I'm Guy Clarke. Welcome along to the Blood Red podcast as we get ready to discuss the resumption of Premier League football and just where, crucially, and when Liverpool could well be crowned champions of England for the first time in over 30 years. Joining me to do that, our Liverpool correspondent Paul Gorst, Matt Addison, and Connor Dunn along with us as well. Connor, good to see you back on the pod, mate.
Good to be back, Guy. I'm very excited to be here and share my thoughts with a no doubt plethora of excited Liverpool fans.
Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty joining us on YouTube, and no better man to have with us for the exciting that Premier League football is to return in less than 3 weeks. As I say, for those joining us live on YouTube, do continue to comment in the comments section. We will read out as many of those as we can. This, incidentally, our 100th episode on the Blood Red channel of the Blood Red podcast. So thanks for joining us. And Gorsty, great to have you guys along as well. How are you both keeping?
Not bad. Hair's getting closer and closer to Paul Weller regions as we go on. But other than that, I can't find too many things to grumble about at the moment.
Yeah, not so bad either, thanks, Guy. Yeah, desperately in need of a haircut, but apart from that, enjoying the nice sunny weather we've got here in Liverpool at the minute.
Yeah, tell me about it. I need a haircut as well. But actually, all joking aside, I do need to make sure to put the sun cream on. But regardless of all of that, let's get into why we're all here to talk about Premier League football. As I say right at the top there, Gorsty, 17th of June, Liverpool not going to be in one of those games. We're expecting Man City versus Arsenal to be the first game of Premier League football when it does return, but still crucially, that is a date that many Liverpool fans will have in the diary.
Yeah, just kind of a return to normality, slowly but surely. I think it was welcomed as great news yesterday when it came out that the 17th of June is going to be the date. Liverpool, obviously, a few days later against Everton in the Merseyside derby, the 236th Merseyside derby, and one for the ages. One that will be played without a single fan in attendance, and it's a bit of a surreal prospect, the fact that Liverpool can actually win the title at Goodison Park, the first one of the years, without a fan in attendance, and the fact that that's even a remote possibility at this stage just kind of sums up the world that we're living in at the moment. But small steps forward, great news yesterday, and we are slowly but surely getting back to normality. So I think everyone will welcome the return of football. I think there'll be thousands of fans sign up to Sky and BT Sport over the next few weeks as they're unable to be there to witness what will be history. But that's the times we're living in, and I think Liverpool, they can't do anything about the situation. All they can do now is control the results once they're back on the pitch in front of no fans, and the challenge is there now to just go and win that title and get it wrapped up and done and dusted.
Yeah, and it's been so long, Matt, since we've had any football. What is it, 9-10 weeks since Liverpool's game with Atletico Madrid? We've been speaking on many of these podcasts. Myself have been on, myself and Paul talking about when is the right time to phase Premier League football back in. But it does feel as though we're ready almost. The training's been going on. We wanted a date for so long, and now, of course, we do have one.
Yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it, to balance when that right time is. But yeah, as far as we can tell, this is the right decision. Obviously, it's only going to be in retrospect that we'll find out whether that is the case or not. Obviously, we've seen players talking about how much time they might need to prepare in terms of training. And I know you've spoken with former Liverpool physios and things like that. So there's so many different bits to balance. But I just think, as Gorsty said, it's going to be a huge thing for football fans to have matches back. By the sounds of it, all of the games are going to be on TV. It's going to be sort of scheduled at I think 12 to 4, 6 and 8 across weekends, so you can watch back-to-back football. And it's just going to be almost like a football festival, almost like a World Cup really for the summer. So it's something massively to look forward to. I mean, personally speaking, I'm not a huge supporter of the England national team or anything like that, but you always enjoy a World Cup or a European Championships because it's just wall-to-wall football. And, after, as you say, 9-10 weeks without it, I think the sooner we get that back on our screens, the better. I'm sure lots of Liverpool fans have been enjoying the Bundesliga and sort of watching a different league that maybe they haven't watched before too much. But look, the Premier League is even more exciting. And the fact that Liverpool are going to be back on our screens and potentially winning the league, maybe in their first game back, maybe in their second game back, but certainly at some point just adds to the excitement as well, of course.
Yeah, and as Matt touches on there, Connor, the Bundesliga have obviously been back for a couple of rounds. I think they've got 3 game rounds actually already under their belts since they've returned. And I suppose that does add to the excitement because we were all waiting to see what behind closed doors football was going to be like. We know the national team, for example, have played a couple of games in recent memory behind closed doors, and they were quite weird. But when everyone's doing it, quite easily, it sort of becomes a new normal, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the Bundesliga's return has given everyone a bit of a blueprint as to how football might look. I think even in those first round of Bundesliga games, I'm sure many people watched that, it did feel a bit weird. It felt a bit like a training game. The intensity might not have quite been there. But the latest round of fixtures, the quality of football, that Borussia Dortmund Munich game the other night was sensational. The RB Leipzig game, there was a sending off, there was tackles flying in. I think the players are getting more used to it as well. And I think, the likes of Liverpool will probably learn from that and realise they have to start with that intensity and beat teams to the punch, essentially. And I think they can start just where they left off. But yeah, it's certainly something we're going to have to get used to in the Premier League. But I think watching it in the Bundesliga, it quickly becomes a new norm, as you say.
And of course, I suppose the whole behind closed doors thing, whilst that's were going on with the Premier, it seemed, I think it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago now, that we felt as though these meetings weren't really getting anywhere. There was the issue of neutral venues and everything, and it's a point where we're going to get onto, which being that Liverpool, of course, now might actually be the primary club who are actually affected by this notion of some games still having to be played on neutral venues.
Yeah, it's all a bit of a mess at the moment, if I'm honest. I think the Premier League have been awful with the communications, to be honest. I mean, they haven't even officially said that the Premier League is going to resume on June the 17th. We obviously know that to be fact, but it's never been officially communicated from the Premier League, and I think that is really poor. And I think they haven't kind of covered themselves in glory throughout these discussions. They've obviously been ongoing for quite a few weeks, and we've been waiting on tenterhooks for the latest pretty much every other Friday, and most of the time, statements haven't even been forthcoming, and I really do feel like that could have been a lot better. But yeah, I mean, we've had the statements, haven't we, from Mark Roberts, who's basically the head of the police in the South Yorkshire Police, the police force, who essentially send out their police forces to every single Premier League game, and they're suggesting that Liverpool games, particularly the Merseyside derby, and any game that they can clinch the Premier League title in, which could be any one of a number of games, will be played at a neutral venue as opposed to Goodison Park or Anfield. And I think it's a bit of a slap in the face, if I'm honest, to football supporters. I think it's a human behaviour of people just because they are football fans. I mean, we had this farcical situation in Warrington, I think it was, quite recently, when people were doing congas for VE Day, and suddenly football supporters are the ones who can't be trusted to congregate to a venue that's going to be closed off, where they're not going to be able to see anything. So why would they do that as opposed to staying at home, putting the feet up and watching it on the telly? But that is kind of the way football fans are, sadly, sometimes viewed in this country.
Yeah, this feels is somewhat of a victimisation on football fans. Well, We'll get on to this at-risk or high-risk games that Mark Roberts has outlined that the police are basically informing the Premier League that they would prefer these games to be played on neutral venues. We'll get into that in a bit more detail shortly. But before we do that, let's just chat about the Merseyside derby, because that, of course, will be Liverpool's first game back. A lot of speculation that could actually be on the 19th of June, though, of course, nothing has been confirmed as yet, Matt. But obviously, there have been Merseyside derbies on neutral grounds in the past. They've been things like cup finals and cup semi-finals, never behind closed doors. It seems such a bizarre idea that, A, the game's behind closed doors at Goodison, and we all understand why, but then why is the need to move it out to the city?
No, it is such a strange decision, as you say. It was always going to be a strange fixture because there'll be no fans. And to be honest, I think the fact that there are no fans in the stadium will play into Liverpool's hands. I think we've seen a little bit in the Bundesliga that maybe home advantage is taken away a little bit without supporters being there. And I think obviously Everton over the years have had much more success against Liverpool when they've been at home rather than away. But I think a big part of that, potentially is the crowd. So those are the matches where that impact is going to be felt. But yeah, look, where do you even begin with the neutral stadiums thing? I mean, I've seen talk of maybe Liverpool playing Everton at the Etihad Stadium, as if, as if Liverpool would congregate outside the ground. I don't think that is the case, but, moving it 25, 30 miles isn't going to stop them, even if you thought that was going to be the case. So, look, however you sort of undress it and however you look at it, it doesn't seem to be, first of all, a very good idea. But then the solution to this idea isn't very watertight either, because, if football fans are going to congregate outside Anfield, well, what's to stop them travelling the motorway and going to Manchester? So, look, the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, that does seem to be one of the real sort of cruxes of this argument, Connor, that no matter where you play this game, Liverpool are such a huge club, such a well-supported club within this country and worldwide, actually, that if you do move the game, whether it be somewhere else in the northwest or even somewhere else in the country, there will be Liverpool fans in that region.
Yeah, it's absolutely bananas to just say Liverpool fans only come from Liverpool and Liverpool fans don't have access to transport. Or you look at the beaches over the bank holiday weekend and this weekend as well. It's crazy, and it just is literally ring fencing football fans into the same pen and saying you're all going to behave in the same way and police need to take control before even giving them the slightest bit of a chance. And that great point, of course, he makes, that why would you stand outside a stadium where you can't see what's going on? You can't hear what's going on. You don't know if anyone's scored because there's not going to be screens outside. People are going to want to stay home. People are going to want to watch the game. People are going to want to watch Liverpool celebrations, want to see Liverpool players on the pitch, Klopp and Henderson and everybody celebrating they've won the title, not stood outside the stadium possibly wondering what if, because when thousands of people gather in a place that signal goes, etc., it's not even likely to phone signal up there and stuff like that. So it's just crazy, a crazy neutral venue issue.
And it's not even the case, Gorsty, that if you leave a ground early, anybody who does that, there's arguments and podcasts to be done on people who leave grounds early. That's not what we're focusing on today. But those who do leave early, or if you nip down to the concourse early at half time and you hear that roar, you hear the crowd, when you're outside, back inside, something's happened, you rush to get back in. That's not even going to be the case. So if there is this notion that fans are going to congregate for some unknown reason, as Connor was saying, they're not actually even, though, going to be able to audibly hear or understand what is going on the other side.
Exactly. What are you going to get? A polite applause that you'd hear at a charity tennis game or something? It just goes to show that the thinking in this country over certain issues such as this is still stuck in the dark ages at a time when football fans were viewed as hooligans and nothing else, and that is certainly not the case. And it's I think it's a real shame. I hope it doesn't come to pass. I hope we can play these games home and away at normal grounds. It's going to be closed off. They're going to be on the BBC, on the telly to watch. Fans are going to be stuck at home with their feet up with a beer in front of the telly, and for the first time possibly ever, it's going to be cool being an armchair fan, isn't it? So there's going to be more people doing that than the odd couple who might show up looking to just deliberately bend the rules, but it'll certainly be a minority. And I mean, I just think it just harks back to a time when football fans were treated as second-class citizens, to be honest.
The point must be made here as well that although these are police plans, this is what police want to happen, but not to say that any final decisions have actually taken place over this yet. And it could all come to pass that it is just venues, home venues, away venues, and that is that, which, as what he said, I really hope comes to fruition.
Yeah, the point obviously we were making there was the Merseyside derby being taken out of Liverpool, and Liverpool fans actually being in other parts of the country. But Conor, I'll come back to you on these high-risk games then that Mark Roberts of South Yorkshire Police has outlined. They are the constabulary giving advice to the Premier League. And of course, they are doing this from what they deem a good position. They aren't wanting to risk anybody's health or safety in any way, shape or form. But there are 12 games then that are being dubbed as high risk. We've got the Merseyside derby is one of those. Then there's a number of London derbies, but then 6 of the 12 games are Liverpool matches. But you can sort of flesh that out and explain why this is. It's not Liverpool are being targeted, is it?
Yeah, so the first couple of Liverpool games are deemed as high risk, like the derby, but there was kind of like an umbrella notion put forward. It was any game in which Liverpool could win the title would be taken to a neutral venue. There's obviously a number of different variables how Liverpool might win it. If Arsenal beat City and Liverpool beat Everton, then that's the title clinch. But if City win, Liverpool need 2 games and it moves forward. So it could come as early as Liverpool's second game if Liverpool get 2 wins in a row, in which case the rest of the games under that umbrella of where Liverpool could win the title will be brought back to home venues and away venues, I think.
Yeah, no, certainly. Well, Neil Sheraton's got in touch with us on YouTube, basically on the point of people watching outside grounds, saying, well, people could obviously be watching on their mobiles outside of the grounds, but that goes back to the whole issue of whether everyone would get technology to do that. Matt, my issue with all of this, though, is where perhaps is the scientific evidence that this is definitely going to be happening. We know Liverpool have a passionate fan base. We're, of course, here talking about Liverpool Football Club, but it doesn't really stand up that the police are actually basing this on anything other than merely a hunch.
No, exactly. I mean, one of the key words of the last 2 or 3 months has been unprecedented, hasn't it? We've never been in this situation before, so there's no way that there is any evidence of this happening in the past. We know that simply isn't the case. But, as the other 2 people on here have sort of suggested, sometimes football fans are treated in a different way. We only have to look at, the fact that you're not allowed to drink alcohol, within the view of the pitch. Whereas if you go to a rugby match or you go to a cricket match or things like that, it's completely different. There's so many examples of where football fans, I think, are stereotyped in a certain way. And, quite often these sorts of stereotypes simply are not true. So, look, the reaction, I think, from fans and from journalists and from everyone from this statement, as you say, from the police, is completely understandable. It just doesn't make any logical sense as to why football fans would be any different to any other member of society, especially, of course, in the aftermath of what happened last weekend with, Dominic Cummings and things like that. It does sort of come across as being a little bit hypocritical to point out certain segments of society when there's no real evidence, as you say, to suggest that would be the case. So, look, it is important to say it's not just Liverpool fans that are being targeted. It is sort of football as a whole. But even that, it's not ideal, and it's really not a good look, I don't think.
I think Matt makes a good point there, sorry, Guy, about this being generally football fans as a whole, because you're going to get people who are just going to assume that this is only Liverpool fans, and people are going to use it as point scoring and another stick to try and beat rival fans with. And I think people sometimes let the tribalism cloud their otherwise intelligent thought process that this is something that is targeting football fans regardless of who they support. So I think it is just a case of football fans as a whole being told that you can't be trusted to stay away. So we're going to have your team playing 250 miles up the road. I just hope it doesn't come to pass.
Yeah, Tony has just written in the comment section, it's a stupid stereotype. You do sort of get that feeling. But Gorsty, on that and on the whole issue, before we just move on, one word said unprecedented is one word that's been bandied about. I've already said new normal. Anybody who's playing COVID-19 buzzword bingo is probably having a field day right now. But just another word that we've mentioned a few times in terms of the Premier League is integrity. And if Liverpool do end up having to be carted off all around the country for their games, surely, as much as we all know Liverpool are going to win the Premier League title, it is going to lose some sort of integrity, is it not?
Well, yeah, I mean, Liverpool are essentially being handicapped because of their own excellence. The fact that they're 25 points clear, if Liverpool were 6 points clear, what would happen then? It's inconsistent. It's not particularly fair, and it's not great for the integrity. I mean, it is just basically down to the fact that Liverpool are so far in front that this is even being contemplated. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? Let's just hope that the Premier League kind of stays strong on this. I mean, I was told yesterday that there was no such discussions about neutral venues yesterday, and Liverpool's preferred option would obviously be to continue playing home and away as traditionally they do. So hopefully that will remain to be the case, and we can have games at Anfield, at Goodison Park, where else we're going to go, Brighton, St James's Park, as normal.
It will just, the whole integrity issue will just be another stick to try and beat Liverpool fans with, though, won't it? Before the season started, it was, Liverpool with VAR are going to struggle. And then that idea died because Liverpool were doing insanely well, and actually about mid-table for VAR overturns, with United, I think, have been the most benefit from VAR overturns this season. Then you had the null and void brigade when this started, desperately clinging to the fact that Liverpool didn't want Liverpool to win the title. But then the consideration that everybody else is also affected, you think how it's affecting Sheffield United, say, or even Man United getting into the Europe. So then it became this whole, it's going to be the title of the asterisk. But then they realised, all 20 clubs have voted for the restart. All 20 clubs have voted for the training. And then it comes to integrity. And I really hope it just doesn't come to pass. As you said, Gorsty, it's just something else that they can use. But everything else so far has been pretty much shot to pieces.
Yeah, it has been a real domination for Liverpool through the course of the season, no matter what obstacles are thrown in their way, and I'm sure it will continue to be that way. Well, before we go, we'll get into a few of your comments, and a bit of a thing that's developed is people asking what the atmosphere and basically how the best way of going about having the games on TV or even within the stadium, the experience for people who will be there. Sirin's got in touch and says, like the way the sound system of the German matches has been used to make it sound like a match is going on. Matt, just wondered what your thoughts were on that, of whether it be crowd noises or sound effects, whatever it being piped into these games once Premier League football is back underway.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of concept, isn't it, to think about. For me personally, I was just glad when I've started to watch the Bundesliga that we've had some football back. We've seen, as Connor said, some real high quality games going on. And that for me is the biggest thing and the most important thing. I think it's something to experiment with. And, if the wider football community is really sort of bothered by that sort of thing, then of course bring it in. It might be one for the red button. You might have an option where you can have it or you can not have it. Something like that could work. Certainly the technology is in place for that to be the case. But it's just, the main thing is that football is back, and that's the only thing that's important, really.
I suppose it would be weird, Gorsty. I know we've just spoken about Liverpool perhaps not being able to play at Anfield, but should Liverpool be at Anfield, You Never Walk Alone, I'm sure will probably be played out before the game, but obviously there'll be no crowd there to take it up.
It'd be so weird, wouldn't it? The two teams coming out, You Never Walk Alone's being played, you look around and there's no one there. I mean, it's just such a surreal sort of scenario, but these are the times we're living in. The fact that it's a possibility is just baffling, but I'm not too sure. I mean, I've seen a few Bundesliga games without obviously the crowd there, and it does sound like it's a bit of a friendly and a bit of a training game, but the intensity has been there. I mean, the games I've seen have been normal games. I don't think they've been overly impacted by the lack of fans there. Maybe as a user experience, it's not as enjoyable to some, but I haven't missed it too much. I mean, I think how would how would you generate the atmosphere? I mean, at certain grounds, dare I say, at the Etihad per se, you know, are they going to tune in some Galatasaray noise and that'll be the loudest atmosphere that's ever been there? I mean, it's how do you go about policing that? It's such a strange scenario that we're even discussing it. I don't mind it as it is. It's obviously not preferable to a full cop, but you got to get on with it, haven't you?
No, certainly. Great bit there. Certainly about Man City. But anyway, Connor, come to you then with this point that Elder Moza 21 says, in Australia, we have cardboard cutout of fans in the stadium seats for the rugby league games. For one of those today was actually Dominic Cummings.
Yeah, I saw that.
On one of those, quite funny.
He's kind of out.
Exactly, yeah. Not just the Durham.
Yeah.
But the question is, can this also be implemented then in the Premier League as well? What would your thoughts on that be then? Cardboard cutouts of season ticket holders put into the
well, do you know what? They actually had it in the Bundesliga as well. I can't remember who it was. Was it Wolfsburg maybe?
Mönchengladbach, was it?
I think it was, yeah, Borussia Mönchengladbach, yeah.
For €19, you could pay for a cardboard cutout of yourself to be put in a seat, which I really like the idea of. And you think that's an amazing way for clubs to generate money. It makes fans feel a little bit more involved. You can have your seat still. You can still be in the stadium. You know, the odd pan shot to the crowd. You might spot yourself. Just a little bit of fun, isn't it? And I don't think there's any harm until a Salah rocket takes your head off in the crowd or something. But that would be the only issue. But no, however it comes back is how it comes back, really. At the end of the day, it's, as Matt said, it's just so important. Football's coming back, and I'm so happy about that as the main fact, really.
Yeah, Matt, your thoughts on that? Would you pay £19 or £20, whatever it is, for your face on a cardboard cutout?
I do quite like the idea. It is a novelty, isn't it? I think, as Connor says, it's a good way for some clubs, particularly, you know, if, say, the Championship came back, it might be more important for clubs lower down the leagues. But yeah, I thought, to be honest, it looked really good when I saw it for Mönchengladbach, but they only had it in a very small section of the ground. It wasn't across the whole stadium. So I think if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it for every single seat. Otherwise, the effect is slightly minimised.
Well, final question then we'll put to the guys. Jay's game has asked this, I think, about 5 or 6 times. So, Jay, patience comes to those who wait. And he says, Gorsty, I'll come to you with this. Anything new on Timo Werner? We nearly got through the whole podcast without mentioning it.
I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Liverpool have said 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League. They're about to enter a run of games with no fans as they win their first league title in 30 years. Completely unique situation to every single supporter on planet Earth. And still transfers continue to dominate neck and neck with the situation we're in. We did a story on, was it Wednesday? Theo Squires did a little digging around, and he was told that talks haven't actually happened, but it's still a strange one. There's definitely interest there. It's just a case of Liverpool's financial situation. Can they afford to buy a player when Leipzig are publicly declaring that they're not going to sell their star man on the cheap? So we'll have to wait and see, I suppose, at the moment on that one.
Yeah, it's one of those, Connor, though, that just won't go away, will it, mate?
No, absolutely. It's one of the few names that really keep on chirping on. But it's not a secret that Liverpool like Werner, and Werner's a good fit. Same as Havertz, though. Klopp is known to like Havertz. He would be a good fit at Liverpool. And the fact that Liverpool are 25 points clear, the fact that Liverpool are going to win the Premier League while still being Champions League holders, makes them the prospect, the club to go for any young, talented player. You know how many of them there are around, so the biggest ones are consistently getting linked to Liverpool. Particularly with Werner, you know, he's not made his desire particularly secret when he's coming on saying that, come and get me, please, and whatever else. So, you know, it's always going to happen, but just have to wait and see what happens in the summer, really, because from a business perspective at a football club, it's a totally different ball game to actually just football coming back at the moment.
Yeah, the joy of us actually doing these podcasts live is actually, Gorsty, you said before, we've not had much from the Premier League. Actually, just got a press release here that says the Premier League's ambition is to complete all of our remaining fixtures this season, home and away where possible. We are working with the clubs to ensure risks are assessed and minimised while cooperating with the police at a local and national level. Discussions with the National Police Chiefs Council and UK Football Policing Unit have been positive and are continuing. We are prepared for all outcomes and have a neutral venue contingency. So that doesn't really feel, Gorsty, I'll come to you, that actually any decision has definitively been made.
No, and I think Conor made that point in the early on in the pod, and when I was kind of bemoaning that the lack of communication from the Premier League, it was that we were waiting on something like this. So I'm glad that they've clarified that. Still nothing definitive, I suppose. They just stating that they'd like to finish it at home and away venues, which we were told from a Liverpool perspective yesterday that was still the case anyway. So it's I suppose it's a good news in a way. There's no imminent plans to stick Liverpool and Milton Keynes for the Merseyside derby or whatever it may be. So yeah, I mean, I'd welcome that.
The clubs pay big subsidies to police forces, don't they, to have them police their games. So if clubs, say Liverpool, for example, have a real ambition to finish home and away, Everton do, a Premier League won it, the clubs won it, the police might have to concede at that point because, obviously they want these neutral venues for games. But if all three of the major parties are saying, actually, no, we think this should be held in the proper venues, then I don't think they're going to have much of a leg to fight with.
No, certainly does seem the case. Well, that rounds things off for us then on Friday's edition of the Blood Red podcast here on the Blood Red channel. Of course, plenty more content to come for you over the course of the weekend. And then on Monday, we will be celebrating, of course, Liverpool's 1-year anniversary of making it 6 in the European Cup with, of course, that 2-0 win over Tottenham Hotspur last year. Until then, though, keep yourselves safe and well. Thanks for your time and company. It's bye for now.